She stood in the middle of the dirt road, arms crossed like she was the sheriff of the whole county, blocking my truck with her little red SUV. "You can't drive up here," she yelled, her voice sharp enough to scare the birds out of the trees. Behind me, the moving truck's engine idled, my whole life packed inside, ready to finally be moved into my cabin. I leaned out the window trying to keep calm. "Ma'am, this is my land." But she smirked and pointed at her phone. "Not anymore. I've got 911 on the line. They're sending officers right now to remove you." The guy driving my moving truck whispered, "Man, is she serious?" I just smiled faintly. She had no idea. I told him to just wait. Out here, land meant something, and I wasn't about to let someone like her rewrite my story. A few minutes later, I heard sirens coming down the gravel path. Karen straightened her back like she'd just won the lottery. She stepped forward, waving her arms at the approaching lights. "Officers, arrest him. He's trespassing and trying to break into that cabin." The police SUV rolled to a stop. The driver's door opened. Karen's smug grin widened until she saw me walking over. "Morning, Jim," the officer said with a grin, pulling off his sunglasses. "Didn't know you were moving in today." Karen froze. "Wait, you know him?" The cop chuckled. "I know him? I served with him. He's the reason I'm still standing here." Karen's jaw dropped. I just stood there watching the color drain from her face, knowing this was only the beginning. Karen blinked like she'd just stepped into the wrong movie. "That cabin belongs to the HOA. He's squatting." She barked, her voice going shrill. The officer's smile faded and he turned to her slowly. "Ma'am, this land isn't HOA property. It's not even in your jurisdiction." Her eyes darted between me and him, looking for some kind of backup. "No, you don't understand. He can't live here. We have rules." "Rules?" I cut in, my voice calm but sharp. "The only rules here are state law and private ownership. And you're trespassing on my driveway." The cop glanced at me, then at her. "Ma'am, you need to step aside before you end up in trouble." But instead of backing down, Karen pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her purse and shoved it toward him. "Here, this is the notice. It says he's not allowed." I couldn't help but laugh. That's not even an official document. It's a printout from a Word template. The officer unfolded it, squinted, then raised an eyebrow. "You signed this yourself?" Karen's face flushed red. "The HOA president authorized it." The officer took a step closer to her. "Funny, because I just spoke to the HOA president yesterday. He said they have no claim on this property." He glanced at me again and gave the smallest nod, our silent understanding from years. Ago in uniform. I opened the tailgate of my truck and started unloading. But I knew Karen wasn't going to walk away quietly. She had that look, the kind that said she was already plotting her next move. And from the way she slipped her phone back into her purse, I knew the next twist was coming. Had barely carried the first box up the porch steps when I heard the rapid click of her heels on the gravel. Karen was back in full storm mode, phone pressed to her ear. She wasn't calling 911 this time. Her tone was too smug, too quiet. "Yeah, he's here right now. Just bring the paperwork. We'll make him leave before nightfall," she whispered, glancing at me like she'd already won. I set the box down and leaned on the railing, watching her pace. "Making more fake rules?" I asked, my voice light but edged. She ignored me, muttering something about emergency bylaws and eviction protocol. The officer from earlier had just finished, checking my property markers when he noticed her too. "Ma'am, who exactly are you calling?" She covered the phone. "None of your business. This is HOA enforcement." I felt my jaw tighten. HOA enforcement didn't exist out here. Not legally, anyway. Whoever she was calling was either bluffing or part of her little power game. 10 minutes later, a white SUV rolled up the hill. Two men in cheap security uniforms stepped out, sunglasses on, hands resting near their belts like they were ready to play cop. Karen practically floated toward them. "Officers, thank you for coming. This man is an illegal occupant. Remove him immediately." The taller one stepped forward. "Sir, we're here to escort you off this property." The real officer barked a short laugh. "Escort him? You boys realize you're trespassing too?" The fake security guy squared his shoulders. "We've been contracted by the HOA," I interrupted with a calm smile. "Then I hope you brought your IDs. Because I've got 3 cameras recording and a county sheriff's number on speed dial." The smirk slid right off the tall guy's face. And that's when I decided it was time to let Karen and her hired muscle walk themselves straight into a hole they couldn't climb out of. Karen's confidence cracked just a little when the taller security guy shifted uncomfortably under my gaze. "We don't have to show you anything," he muttered. But the hesitation in his voice was enough for the real cop to step forward. "Oh, you'll show it," the officer said, his tone suddenly firm. "Or I'll have you both in cuffs for impersonating law enforcement." Karen's eyes went wide. Impersonating? They're professionals. The shorter guard glanced at her, clearly regretting every life choice that led him here. Technically, we're not police. We're, community safety officers." "Translation," I said, leaning against my truck. "You're rent-a-cops who think a shiny badge from Amazon gives you authority." The real officer took their IDs, scanned them, and then gave me a slow nod, his way of saying, "Get ready." I stepped closer to Karen, my voice calm but deliberate. "Here's the thing, Karen. You've now trespassed, forged documents, called in fake security, and wasted police resources. That's 4 charges before lunch." She scoffed, but her voice wavered. "You think you can scare me?" I smiled faintly. "No, but the county judge might." That's when the officer pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, I need a unit for 2 individuals. Suspected of impersonating officers and 1 individual for criminal trespass." Karen's mouth opened in shock. "You can't arrest me. I'm the victim." The sound of another siren in the distance cut her off. I could see her brain scrambling, trying to spin the story before backup arrived. But it was too late. Every step she'd taken had been recorded on my cameras and the dash cam of my truck. And the best part? She didn't even know about the real piece of proof I had locked away that would end this game for good. The second police unit pulled up, crunching gravel under its tires. Karen's eyes darted between the 2 squad cars, like she was watching her last bit of control slip away. The backup officer stepped out, hand resting casually on his hip. "What's going on here?" he asked. The first cop didn't miss a beat. Trespassing, forged eviction notice, and a couple of wannabe cops trying to play tough guy. Karen jumped in. "That's a lie. He's squatting." I reached into my jacket pocket, slow and deliberate, and pulled out a thick leather folder. "Actually, this might clear things up." I handed it to the backup officer. Inside was a certified property deed with my name in bold, notarized just 3 weeks ago. But that wasn't the part that made Karen pale. It was the small gold seal at the bottom. The officer's eyes narrowed as he read it. "State issued, and signed by the county registrar himself." Karen took a shaky step back. That's fake." The real cop smirked. "I've seen plenty of fakes in my time. This isn't one of them. In fact, it's got a special designation." He turned the paper so everyone could see. "Veteran Homestead Protection. This property can't be seized, taxed beyond normal rates, or restricted by any HOA." The shorter security guard whispered, "Oh, crap." I looked at Karen, my voice low but steady. "I told you this is my land. You picked the wrong fight." The backup officer handed me back the folder. "Sir, you're in the clear. In fact, we might need you to stick around to give a statement once we process them." Karen's breathing quickened. She clutched her purse like it was a lifeline, eyes darting toward her SUV. But before she could make a move, the officer subtly stepped into her path. And I knew right then she was either going to double down or make the biggest mistake of the day. Karen's eyes flicked toward her SUV again, that panicked calculation flashing across her face. I could practically see the thought forming. Get in, drive off, and pretend none of this happened. "Ma'am," the officer warned, his tone firm. "Don't even think about it." But Karen, well, thinking wasn't her strong suit. She lunged toward the driver's side door, heels slipping on the gravel,